Hey guys, Professor Matt here with an overview of Chapter 7. This is implementation. The RPIE model we talked about, this is the I in that, right? Research, planning, and now we finally get to implementation. Remember that the Arthur Page principle of proving it with action. This is really super important. And I love this quote in the book. It says, excellence in the public relations field is based on meaningful action. That's action that actually is going to make a difference based on what you determine in your research to be the situation, a problem, an opportunity, whatever it's going to be. And we are going to actually do something in response to that to make sure that it actually makes a difference. Okay, so one of the things we do in implementations, we have to choose channels. Like, what is the channel of communication? And one of the things you're going to learn as you go throughout your public relations education curriculum is that your toolbox of communication tactics is going to expand. And the question is then is when do you use a particular tactic or channel in a particular situation? Okay, and that's where you start to develop more of an idea of how things work, right? And how do you create meaningful change to the tactics you're going to choose? Okay, so we need to make wise and informed decisions on which channels of communication to use, when and for what purpose. And then we're trying to meet specific goals and objectives that we have to carefully analyze. And we need to know the pros and cons of various media and to know what's going to be used for the organization and the publics we're trying to reach. Okay, so one of the first areas that we look at is this idea of controlled versus uncontrolled media. Okay, and that's really important. Controlled media goes into the category of what things can you create that you actually control the message for. For example, on your website or your Twitter feed or your newsletters or your brochures or whatever it might be, where you control the message. Okay, advertising is obviously in the controlled area as well. Uncontrolled could be something like earned media, like media relations, where you're pitching something to a media outlet and then they determine what they're going to put in that story. You have lost control. Okay, now here's the cool thing about this, or why would you want to lose control? Well, if a media outlet does a positive story about your company or your product or your service, you gain what's called third-party credibility. Okay, someone who does not work for you has said something positive about your product or service, your company, whatever, and that's worth a lot. So that's why you actually will, give up control of a message, work with media, and try to achieve that. Now, I love this new model called the PESO model. It was formed or created by Jeannie Dietrichs, and she came up with this a number of years ago. And it really just it gets to the heart of what we're doing in public relations today. PR, as I said before, has expanded greatly over the years. The scope of our work is dramatically different and bigger than it ever was. So the PESO model, which stands for paid, earned, shared, owned, is now what PR people and professionals and organizations, agencies, and so forth are tuning into today as a way to talk about all the various things that we do. Okay, so let's just go through this. We can start with owned. I talked about this before. Owned media is controlled. And I maybe have talked about this before, but this idea that we are all in the content creation business. Okay, creating content is a massive part of what we do today, and that could be, again, website stuff, blogging, podcasts, video, whatever it might be, because there's this huge desire today on consumers' part for information, right? And so we need to be part of that. We need to create content on a regular basis, and that is owned media. And that's super important that you get really good at video and audio and writing and all those various platforms. We talked about this before, this idea of trans platform or cross-platform storytelling or transmedia storytelling. Okay, there's lots of different media out there that we need to be able to write for, and when we own it, then we can control the message. But the other one, the paid media is and that's the P in the peso, is advertising. Typically, we used to think advertising did its thing, we did our thing, but now there's a lot of overlap with that, because we might do sponsored content to help actually the earned media that we have generated. Now we might use advertising to extend the life of that earned media. And obviously shared today, the idea of social media and people sharing things. You want people to like and share and retweet your information. We want to create content that is actually shareable. Okay, that's the key. We want to actually build that into our system of actually doing media that helps people to share it. And of course, the earned media part about media relations is typically, when you think about PR, a lot of times you're thinking this is what public relations was about from the very beginning, right? Trying to encourage the media to write about, to video, to me, it could be broadcast, it could be print, whatever it might be. But the earned media is still a big part of what we do. And then obviously all this stuff needs to be searchable online. That's why we talk about search engine optimization. You need to be searchable. Okay, and there's a whole science to that of how you are searchable. Like if you are trying to search for your company or product and you're past page 1 on let's say a Google search, chances are people are not going to look there. Okay, so how do you make it more searchable? Okay, so that is essentially on the implementation. A lot of good stuff in this chapter. I want to encourage you to read carefully, go through about like what mixed media is and how we actually work with all those different things. But remember, this peso model is where we're going today. Paid, earned, shared, owned. We do all of that. And the PR field is greatly expanded. If you're not doing that, then you're not doing the full scope of what we do in public relations. So make sure you read the chapter, make sure you take the chapter quiz, look at the uploaded PowerPoint presentation, and also participate in the post and discuss section of the course this week. I look forward to seeing you again, and we'll see you again soon.